I guess we can officially start the web dev sig meeting. Um, this is the January 2025 web dev sig. I have some stuff to talk about, but if other people have stuff to talk about, I would love to hear it.
I have stuff to talk about.
What would you like to talk about?
I actually mentioned it in the last meeting, but I will bring it
Do
up
it.
here because it's more fitting here. Uh, Changes, and Lucas knows about this too because I was talking to him about it yesterday. But changes were made in the self check. We're moving over to the BioWater. There was not the BioWater, the Koha self check because the third party self check that we've been using. I tried to do an install of that, and the WAMP server is not working the way I would like on new installs anymore. So it's like it's making it much harder. So plus I'm planning to go over to Chrome boxes and it's making it a little bit more challenging. I just want something simple. So I've been playing around more with the Koha self check. But what's happening is with recent changes, I guess, with the batch checkout on the self check. The alerts up at the top are stacking. It's not replacing, this item was checked out, this item was checked out. It's stacking those alerts. And so this page is slowly getting pushed down off the screen. So I've had to, for the time being, hide those alerts, but would prefer that those alerts are there because a lot of people use those alerts for audio. And the other issue that I'm running into right now is I can't get audio to work on those issues. I can get it the audio to work on if the page is loaded, but the page doesn't refresh. That just the information is refreshed, and so that alert only goes off when the page is initially loaded. So if I point to anything that talks about issues, it's not working. So it's what I'm running into.
Could you point to that alert that you don't want to see? Trigger it whenever the alert generates in the
What
background or something.
what's that?
Yeah, so the alerts are stacking every time you check something out, right?
Yeah, and
So
pushing
if
all
you
the information. The
play a
table's
sound
slowly
every,
going off the screen.
but if you play a sound every time one of those comes up, then the sound would work, right? So you could just
Well,
have them hidden in the background and play the sound off of the
but
alert
it's not.
generation.
On my test server, I've removed the hiding of those, and I point to those, and it doesn't
Still
work.
doesn't work. Mm-hmm.
So this got reported to me by one of our libraries a little while ago, and so this is a bug for that exact issue because they're finding like at their self check, like if somebody brings a stack of books, then it pushes the input box all the way down to the bottom, and it's like makes it unusable. So if anybody Lucas signed off on this, if anybody else can test and sign off on this, then Lucas could pass it through QA. Maybe.
Yeah, we could do a swap like that to get it through.
I'll put it on my to do. But yeah, I'm not sure why the audio doesn't work. I know that we have to do some workarounds just to even get refer to the audio files because I guess self checkout is kind of overlooked in those audio alerts. So you have to include. You can't just pick from the drop down list. You have to actually include a full path to the audio file. But um, even
And
with
that
that, the selector's not working for the issues. So
and the assets not being on the self-checkout /OPEC is a bug that I fixed. I think it's in 24.11. Should make you able to just pick the sound. That doesn't fix your selector thing, but
right.
makes it a little easier.
Yeah, the selector thing, I am going to assume it has something to do with the way the page is updated, because the page isn't necessarily reloaded. It may be an Ajax thing, but I tried some of my other data table tricks. None of them seem to be working for this particular thing. So I've tried it via jQuery, bypassing the audio uh, table altogether, and just plugging it in directly through jQuery, and still not. I can't seem to select those changes. Seems like every time I come up with a method to capture an event, something gets changed in Koha, and it makes it, it doesn't work anymore. I've got like three or four different ways of listening for things now. Just basic looking, using the selector. Now I've got the data table init, the data table load, the data table draw. There's all these things I can try out, and none of these are working.
I'm confused, I guess. What are you trying to do with jQuery on a table draw?
Well, I'm trying to capture on the self checkout. When that table is refreshed, that's a trigger to look and see if uh, uh, something has changed and cause an audio alert. So I'm basically creating an audio alert manually in jQuery outside of the table, because the table isn't doing it. Outside of the audio alerts table. So the built-in stuff isn't working, and trying to do it manually through jQuery, I can't get it to work either.
Are you trying to?
I can't capture the event that's updating the issue. Basically, so I'm hiding those alerts, and so those alerts aren't there, and so I'm looking at basically above that table. There is it does, which is kind of redundant. It mentions what just checked out as well, what was just issued above that table, and so it's like I'm looking at that to see if that got changed or updated. I can't seem to do that either. Fact. So let me pull that up. Oh, by the way, I saw that our test server was upgraded and broke some things, so I'm gonna have to go play with that.
That's what I wanted to talk about today.
Um,
Bootstrap change.
Here, let me pull this up real quick here. Oh, that's funny. Share. So that moved some things too. This button used to be over to the side. I have to fix a bunch of stuff. What's happening? Okay. So, when I check out an item, if it'll let me check out an item that's already checked out. Nope. Let's try to renew. No, it doesn't. Okay, well, okay, this is the stuff that's being hidden because this item renewed, it'll just keep stacking these up, and so this is what I hide on our production server right now. But when I check something out new that isn't already checked out, something shows up like right underneath the box. It shows up right down here saying checked out, and that's what I'm looking at to try and capture, since I'm hiding the other stuff. Maybe when I can stop hiding the alerts up at the top, I'll have better luck. But trying to capture the information that's up here that shows up here when I check things out. Can I grab something? So yeah, okay, it's down below the tabs, but this is what I tried to look at. To say, hey, there's an item that's been issued, go ahead and trigger a sound. But you can see this how this stuff is stacking up, pushing this down. So I'll go sign off on Lucas's bug, help him out on that, but just capturing this audio to audio alert, because it's funny on our patrons are used to having some sort of feedback, audio feedback when they've checked something out successfully and they're not getting it, and it's like freaking them out. Now, anyways,
Do the audio alerts, we haven't really used them, but I was wondering, they depend on having a class or a ID that
you're
is
supposed to be able to
set up,
just use any kind of selector, so you should be
any
able to
selector.
point to an ID or a class, or
Any
all the
selector should,
usual selector stuff.
the element needs to be rendered on the page and not inserted by JavaScript, though, because the audio alerts are triggered by JavaScript in Koha on a document ready. So if you or Koha are adding the element you're trying to select with JavaScript, is not going to work. But the elements you're looking at, Christopher, is just checking. They're in the templates, so they should be in the source and play when document loads.
Yeah, like I said, I can get an audio alert when it initially goes to that page, and then when you leave that page, but stuff happening in that page is the problem.
Just not the selectors you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the biggest hurdle, I think, in Koha these days is, how pages are built. I understand how, why the pages are built the way they are for efficiency, but it makes it difficult for us to capture what's happening on that page, and react to it in code. So fun stuff. But anyways, that's my self-check stuff. Jason, you can rant now.
Okay, I didn't want to rant. I just wanted to talk about the bootstrap changes that are coming in 24.11. Our test server got upgraded, so I was gonna share some of the things that broke and talk about fixing it. So this is my production server, and then this is my test server, the purple. Things that jump out immediately are these links at the top are using some bootstrap classes to make them work, and they don't work anymore after the upgrade. So I had to go in and change some classes and add some different stuff to make this work right. So this one is fixed and this one is still broken. You see, I can't even click it. The other things that broke customization wise, I have a bootstrap table down here, and it works like this. So I fixed these first two tabs, and then I was using like bootstrap labels for my little numbers, and I had to change that to badges to make it look right there. So just to sort of show what's going on there. And this is mostly just in the HTML syspress. It's not even like CSS or anything. Staff. So on my intranet nav, these are what those drop downs look like. And that's probably not that easy to read. But you can see, actually, let me. Over here so we can get some color. So, gosh, I looked at it yesterday and now I've already forgotten. So I think it's the nav item terminology. Did I go? Anyways, what I did was I went over to the Bootstrap website and looked and saw the structure and looked at the differences. So like I didn't have these nav link classes assigned to my links, and that's why the dropdowns aren't working. So I think the changes were like in the staff client it went from 3 something to 5, and then in the OPAC it went from 4 something to 5. So just referring to the Bootstrap documentation for version 5 is what helped me get those things working again. On the OPAC, the only thing that really I was messing with was using variables in my my custom CSS for colors, and I found that the variable names changed. So before I had -- white, and I was using that to reference the existing variables in the style sheets, and those broke. So you have to add the BS - white for Bootstrap if you're using those to style things.
That's BS.
It is Bootstrap. You're right. So that's the main thing that jumped out at me on my test server when it upgraded, was just some of that the customization stuff where I'm involving Bootstrap in some way or another is broken. And there are still some things that are like broken in the base code. Like I was looking at the curbside thing, and there's a bug for this and a fix already, but some of the Bootstrap stuff that Koha is using natively is also broken there, it looks like. At least the tabs work on that. Mine, I didn't even have working tabs.
This is going to be a messy one.
Yeah, but it'll be okay. Gotta get ahead of it.
I can see
It's
my
good.
menus are all messed up too. So
Yeah,
it's like, and I moved my the information that ends up on the homepage down at the bottom with all the alerts. I moved that over to the left-hand side. That's all back down at the bottom. So they've changed whatever selectors, whatever I'm pointing at to grab that. Something's changed.
better to start looking at it now, at least. That's the
Yeah.
blessing of a test server.
Yes. I feel
was
bad
trying
for all
to.
those that are not using test servers.
Okay, there's the bug for the curbside pickup thing. It's been pushed to main already. So I assume that one will get backported, but that's bug 37761. The other stuff I was going to talk about were these 2 bugs, which are unrelated. This one was my on-demand whole delivery management bug. That the last time we talked about this idea where my library wants to do like DoorDash for their patrons, and David then suggested maybe using the curbside pickup module, and I think that's the way we're gonna go with it. So I've started going through and just like figuring out. I'm gonna have to like bend it to my will to make it do what I want, but figuring out all the places that I want to change things. It's a lot of just relabeling, but I think the functionality behind it is gonna work just fine for what I need. We'll just skip the fact that the patron is sitting outside and ready for the pickup and change that to like on the delivery van. So that's a project that I'm planning on working on soon, but I did put in a bug for it as well in case somebody wants to run with the idea and actually make it work in Koha. And then I just had one other bug that I ran into that I reported, which involves renewing items on the OPAC. the Bootstrap thing has given me an excuse to sort of look through my OPAC stuff and see what's working and what's not. And I'm trying to like cut out as much jQuery as I can because there's definitely some stuff that can be done with CSS lighter weight. But I found that like when you go to a small screen, it doesn't work at all to renew items anymore. And this is on master. This isn't my test server or anything, but I checked out an item, and then on a small screen, it's responsive, so it collapses down. But this renew button doesn't work. This renew link doesn't work at all. It just lifts it up to the top of the page. So I put in a bug about that, but I also put some suggestions for maybe some usability enhancements on that specific page for the patron on mobile, because this is not a fun experience whatsoever. Like there's these renew selected buttons, but they don't associate with anything. Well, the renew all does, but renew selected doesn't associate with anything unless you uncollapse the table and find the checkbox, which is really hard to push with your thumb on your phone, to then renew selected. So I just made some minor suggestions to maybe improve that screen a little bit. Like if the checkbox was always present and bigger over here and the renew button was always present, we don't really care about the author as much. That would make it easier for the patrons to use this on their phone. So I guess I did rant a little, but that's my laundry list of things to talk about today.
Jason, if you file more Bootstrap 5 related bugs, would you mind CCing me on them so I'm aware?
Absolutely.
And
I haven't actually filed any of those, I don't think. Like I just found that one that was fixed. So.
And that goes for anybody here filing bugs about Bootstrap. Please CC me.
We found that, and we're still using the Koha OPAC, that none of our synthetics images will display on the results pages. They do display on detail and in the patron account where you see images, but not on the results pages. That was the first thing I noticed.
We saw that ticket, Barbara, and we have a fix for it. So.
Okay. And then we're using cover flow on our homepage. And I learned that I had to change data-toggle to data-bs-toggle. And that fixed my first page. But I've still got some kind of a problem when I go to my subsequent tabs. They do nothing. So I'm still missing something because I don't understand Bootstrap really, so but something's missing there, so I've got that.
Those toggle attributes changed in the most annoying way because it is simply just an extra BS in front of it. So,
but that was once I found that, it was like, oh, this is easy to fix, and I thought it would fix everything, but it did fix the first page, which is most of it, but I have tabs for teen and kids, and those aren't working. So I'm going to have to figure that out. And then I just filed a ticket in the staff interface. We use the point of sale. And when you look at the transactions, it used to be that there was a row for the date, the payment type, the amount for the total transaction, and that had a darker gray background. And then each payment, if there were multiple payments for multiple different things that made up a total transaction, those were striped in a very light gray and white striping. But now that main row has lost its background color, and it's hard to scan the page and realize the items, the payments that go with the main transaction. So I just opened a ticket on that one. I don't know if that's Bootstrap or not, but.
I was trying to look and see what I changed on my little table to make the tab contents work, and I think it was just the changing the data toggle to data BS toggle on the nav links at the top, and then the tab content. I had some fades, and the class. I don't think the class changed. The class was still tab-pane, but I also had a fade class on there, and I had to take the fade classes off to make it work.
Yeah, I know I've got on the cover flow, I know I've got actives in places, I've got fade, I've got like fade show, I've got, and I did this so long ago, but I'm like, I don't remember what once I got it working, it was like, so yeah, something there. I'll have to investigate. One other thing that I'm not really a fan of is that the placeholder text in the search bar on the Koha OPAC is right justified over by the search button instead of left justified, because it looks weird, and it also is it just seems like it's going to be missed.
What is this?
On the Koha OPAC in the search bar, there's now a placeholder in the text box, in the input box. And we used to have some jQuery that put stuff in there, but now there's a feature that includes that by default, but it's right justified in the search box instead of left justified. And it just looks kind of odd. And I can't figure out how to like override that and push it back over to the left.
Oh yeah, that is weird.
If anybody figures that out.
Placeholder is a pseudo element, so I think that we could just use a little CSS to.
It didn't
change
seem to
things.
target it. I guess, everything I was trying didn't make a difference. And in a few other cases, and I'm less experienced with this stuff than y'all, but I'm doing what I normally would do to find what the selector is and then apply the CSS. And in some different cases, it just feels like Bootstrap is telling me, no, you can't do anything with that. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to. So I don't know if there's a trick that I don't know about, or, is there some extra something to sometimes have to override what Bootstrap is saying to do. I mean, I've been successful in places, and I don't have an example right now, but there were some where it's just kind of like, okay, it's just plain not going to let me play with that.
I put some CSS in Zoom chat that should work for you. I did raise this issue when I saw that bug when it was going through QA, but the community wanted to have it on that right side.
What? They wanted it?
At least it's easy to change to.
There were some comments
Right.
about accessibility.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what really drove, but it was like, but everything else that has a placeholder, at least in the staff, is, on the left, not over on the right. So
And that goes against all laws of HTML. I mean, it's like I've never seen that done anywhere else. bizarre. I mean, for them to do something like that, the community to do something like that, that should have been an option, not something that we have to work around and forced upon us.
Well, I'm happy to report that CSS fixed my problem, and I'm very happy. Thank you.
I'm still looking at Christopher's self-checkout stuff because I'm also eating my lunch and I'm only kind of halfway paying attention. But the jQuery I just stuck in there, instead of hiding those alerts, it just pushes them to the bottom of the page. So I don't know if that'll help your issue or not, but that way it won't keep pushing the box down. It'll just put all the alerts at the bottom of the page instead of the top of the page.
I'll play with that and see. Thanks.
All this other stuff sounds fun too. I'm really looking forward to staying up all night for the next 6 weeks and fixing all that stuff. So
Yeah.
yay.
Like I don't have other things to do. It would be, I'm wondering too, do we have a resource somewhere for, an upcoming upgrade? These are the things that we've run into and this is how we fixed it kind of place? Because I'm wondering, I mean, seems like that would be helpful for, upcoming upgrades. We're not all repeating a bunch of work or, bugging Bywater or whoever on the same issues. And it's like, it seemed like that would be a good first go-to place to look, if somebody's already found something and resolved something.
Yeah, I know that discussion came up with the last upgrade where we were hopeful that maybe there would be a list maintained of reported issues that I assume Bywater would maintain, so that instead of people continuously opening up tickets and then being told, yes, that's a known issue, we could just be referred to the list of issues. But like this bootstrap stuff specifically is affecting customization, so that might be something that we as this group could take on, as just a list of, this is something that I had added to my system that broke because of the upgrade, and this is how I fixed it.
I mean, we could put a page on koha-US for things like this, and allow we'd have to figure out some way of allowing whoever to update the list or add to it or whatever. But
I was just about to say, you say we could update, koha-US website, but I think you're the only one here that can update the koha-US website.
well, technically the officers too, but yeah. I mean, so we'd have to come up with something. I don't know.
Look, you had
Maybe we just point to a Google
A
Doc
Google
that's
Doc.
shared. Yeah.
or if there was some kind of form that the person put their details in and it put it into a page.
That's true too. I mean, I could set up formators so that you could submit, what the problem was and what your solution was, and it could automatically populate. Yeah, I could probably do that.
And I mean, a Google Doc would be just as easy since there's already like a shared folder for this group. If we just have a running list of that we could all contribute to,
Yeah.
and it's got version history, so if somebody goes in and mucks up, we could always undo it. But I think it's only edit privileges are probably only people that are in the mailing group for this, or the Google group for this group. So that would take some burden off of you to have to manage it directly on the website.
Yeah, I think that would be a good resource. So let's see what I can do for that.
I think that's an excellent resource that we should have you create for us.
Thanks.
Just trying to be helpful, man.
Another thing I came across was in looking at the editing of patron, I was going to collapse the non-patron guarantor field since we don't really have a lot of those. And so I went into the sysprep and I checked that off. But when I looked at the page again, it seems to collapse both the non-patron and the patron guarantor. So something's going on there that it's not targeting just the one thing, it seemed like. Also, is the patron guarantor information supposed to show for all patron categories? Because it's showing on our adult patrons, and we don't really have guarantors for our adult patrons.
Any patron can have a guarantor,
Yeah.
but I think you have to select what categories can
Right,
be
you can-
included in that.
You can enable it in the specific patron categories. So it sounds like maybe some of your adult patrons have it turned on.
I may have it not set up the same way as the production server on my test, so I'll go look at that.
And I know there was like lots of bugginess surrounding that in the last upgrade. Like it would cause errors and stuff. I do see the problem that you just described about the collapsing. If I only select non-patron guarantor, it does collapse patron guarantor as well. So I think that's probably a bug.
I didn't even know that was supposed to be a separate selection.
I was trying to find a bug about it, and I found this one that Christopher put in that says the exact same thing he just said. He's on the phone. That's even better. He said, "I don't know why that needs to. That's a separate collapsible section." But I don't see a bug specifically for that. There is one that's like cannot hide non-patron guarantor in borrower relationships. Sort of tangentially related. We hit a lull. Is there other stuff people want to talk about, like cool stuff or stuff you found that's broken since your test servers have upgraded or whatnot? Web devy or not?
I guess my complaint about the test server upgrade is that I was thinking that morning when I was driving into work that I should ask Bywater to sync my test server data with my production server data before they get to the point where they upgrade the test server. So that because usually you can't sync them after the upgrade, after one of them's upgrade because the databases don't match up. And so that morning I thought I'll send in a ticket first thing this morning. And then the first thing that I read in the morning was that my test server had been upgraded. So it's like I wish I'd known a couple of days beforehand that I wish I'd known the schedule of the test server upgrades a little bit better.
Yeah, I only just stumbled upon the information. They do have
Oh, they did post
dates
a
on the
date.
upgrade hub, but I think I found that as a link to one of the Monday Minute videos or something. So
Ah,
yeah, I agree. More communication on that would be helpful.
yeah, if I'd known a couple of days beforehand, then I would have the data synced already. So I think I'm 2 versions behind on my data sync. I don't think I'm a year behind on data sync. So
But the good news is if they stick to the schedule, Christopher, you have till March 3rd through the 9th to get everything fixed. So there's plenty of sleepless nights ahead. Well, it's fun staring at all your guys' faces, but if there's nothing else to talk about, we can probably call it early. Um, so last call for topics or things to talk about. All right. Well, we'll call this one a wrap and see everybody next month.
see y'all later.